So I want to talk about the thing with identity, and identity has a speed's incorporated into identity. And when I was talking about how I was like, oh, these CIA women that were all around me, and the example I gave in one of the videos was I was at the San Francisco International Airport. I always dreamt of being able to fly around. And, in all fairness, you got to find some things to be grateful for about your life. And as broke as I am, we're at a period of time where air travel is so incredibly democratized compared to what it was for my parents, my grandparents, and back in the age of the Stratocruiser and all of that. So if you got to find work somewhere where there's work, you fly to where there's work. You might have to go to LA, you might have to go back to Vegas, like I was talking about, and we're going to hammer out all the details in the coming days. Made a lot of progress on that bus from Escondido and the Sprinter from Oceanside to Escondido to get to that express bus. On drafting those emails to all the professors to help me. I really should probably just try to do it myself, and I might end up having to, but everything comes together when you hound all these resources, and then if none of them want to help you and find you reprehensible or hate you, that was necessary work. That was necessary fucking the world up you had to do in order to get your brain to a point where the aha moment happened, the eureka moment happened, and you were able to figure out enough about, I don't know, what is the coding language, JavaScript, whatever we're using, whatever ChatGPT says, paste into to deploy from your local system to Cloudflare, and trying to do it myself. But then it says, oh, well, the reason why there's this hiccup is we now have something where we need to create separate modules to deploy, and the deployments become more complicated. It's just not my forte. I wish it were. But these are people that study this stuff at university, and they just understand it like the back of their hand, all the programming languages. So they understand. It's not my thing. And they can quickly, probably within hours, do exactly what I'm trying to do, which is to have this functional backend to supply a very versatile and scalable front end that can also be purposed for making it just generate some YAML text, YAML, that gets pasted into a custom GPT in ChatGPT that we create. So any of my chats in ChatGPT, whether I've got free or plus or pro, but the $20 a month should be able to do it with this custom GPT that can manipulate all of the things, read all of the things, answer questions I have about all of the things, which would be everything I have in Outlook, calendar or email, everything I have in Google, email or calendar, and this can be used as because this stuff we use, we can look at the calendar and it shows it on the calendar, and then if all I've got is a little cell phone, it makes it a bit hard when you're looking at Outlook. Toggle over. Okay, wait, this line shows where we're at now. Okay, we got an appointment coming up, but you want to see a reminder of everything we've got globally on my calendar for the next 3 days, 7 days. Just pull up ChatGPT and ask it, give me the update. You've got a pre-prepared prompt pretty much for it, and it just looks at your calendar for you, generates a PDF. You can print it at the library, and things get done. We have to work with paper. But I want to talk about how the speed of movement and identity comes with speed. Now, the problem with that is some people are slower up here. I said Donald Trump is probably a guy with cerebral palsy, and I'm going to stick with that. He started out very slow, and everything that he does today and the way he's so good at negotiating, this is real diplomacy that we're seeing at work. It's not the kind of diplomacy of University of Hawaii East-West Center where, it's a big new Brzezinski. This is real diplomacy because money's in it. And this is how the business is really done. And yes, all of his stuff is pre-prepared lines. And he's a slow guy to begin with that has the calculus of everything in his mind and understands the math and the corporate financing behind what runs the world and what propels the world, what drives the world. And to make the sell for the things you have to do the deal. Like he wrote a book, Art of the Deal. He has to be quick, but these are things he studied and prepared and practiced quite meticulously and he studied to be the president of the United States and to do business on the global scale like this over the course of his entire lifetime. By doing business to try to get the financing to put up a skyscraper, maintain ownership of the skyscraper so that his future generations, and he's got skyscrapers in India, a lot of it's, it's not financing, it's trademark deal because his name is worth so much. But more and more, you look at the way the deals are being structured, real ownership of the building. He owns half of Trump Tower in Las Vegas, a 4-star hotel with his friend Philip Ruffin. There's real ownership there. It's not just, oh, we put his name on it. That might have been more the case, and we'll confirm it. We'll look more into the entity structures of it with when he had Trump Tower in Hawaii, but it was still significant enough for it to be more than just I'm licensing my name to be on a building, and Trump or owns the trademark Waikiki Beach Walk. It was more than that. So there was significant enough an actual percentage ownership in the building itself for it to, where they had to sell it, because that funded his second presidential campaign to become the 47th president of the United States. It's not that everybody is just innately good at saying things fast to get their way. But if you got the calculus of corporate finance in your head, if you know all the curves that people are working with to try to get more money, this thing with capitalism, it's do what's in your interest, your selfish interest. That's something you have to remember. But what about everybody? What about, this is what happens when you think about what about everybody? Father Joe here, I mean, look, this is not, the Black Panther said the shelter of people. This is not a shelter for individuals. This is not for individuals, it's for rats. Yeah, that's what you get when you think about what about everybody. You got Paul Mirabile and Saint Vincent de Paul. This is what everybody gets. I'm not everybody. I'm an individual, and this is what I want. I want to own the skyscraper. I want to own incredibly luxurious apartments. I was always talking about the kind of stuff you see in Architecture Digest, $30 million lofts in Manhattan, and the lifestyle that comes with that. Well, it requires talent. Well, it's amoral to want it without the talent. But some people, I'm a we call a capital guy, and so they take a little bit of knowledge they have from a university degree in corporate finance and real estate and business, and they're gonna now buy themselves a Rolex when they successfully complete a deal. They'll put a little icing on the cake. Well, I want to take that to a higher level, and no one can say greed is bad. Gordon Gekko, greed is good, and it becomes this Hollywood. But it is. That's what it's based on. Is it in your best interest not to buy a very nice home with the rental income and cash flows that you have from owning apartment buildings in multiple states across America, Southwest and Heartland, in say Carlsbad or Encinitas? Well, that depends on preference. You can do what you want with your money, but if you're thinking about it like, well, what about the homeless? So you look at these I'm so greedy that because I'm doing this is why the homeless can't do this or that, and they don't get all the nice shoes they need. It's too bad, because they're better off because you're being greedy. That's just the way capitalist society works, and you have to remember that. And it's like it said in The Apprentice, it's either the sweet or the streets. But that homeless guy they showed is better off because you choose the sweet. Everybody chooses to be homeless and not play the game and not always win, because you're going to lose anyway. And sometimes it's just the way it goes. You can't be as lucky as someone with good genes as Donald Trump. So you're going to have, times when your entrepreneurial ventures, or you couldn't be the owner of the building that got put up. You couldn't develop that plot of land, so you might as well choose to always win, because you're going to lose anyway, and it's only going to be worse if you don't choose to always win. So when it comes to identity and speed of movement, I actually have to reference, and he could be acting for some reason, but my cousin John Ursua, NFL, he was Seattle Seahawks, Michael Savage. Just keep this stuff secret. He talks about this guy whose last name was Wiener, on Gavin Newsom's show. This is Gavin Newsom. This is Michael Savage. And he's reading from a piece of paper. He's talking about this legislator up in Sacramento named Wiener. His name is Michael Allen Wiener, Savage Wiener. And Gavin Newsom doesn't even say anything. Just, we know you're a rich family. But I have to reference him because I'm going to put a link to the video. And I could be wrong. I have to look at it again. But he was talking so slowly when he was giving this interview. But believe me, he can move quickly. That's his talent. Is he the tallest guy? Is he no? Go look at his specs. Is he the most buff guy, muscular? Not compared to a lot of people, but he could move fast and he could juke. Let's get around the people. You got to have adaptation to the evolutionary things. And if everybody else is taller, if everybody else is bigger, you got to move away fast, get around them fast. Like Donald Trump said, if there's a concrete wall in front of you, go over it, go around it, run right through it if you have to. There's kind of beauty to it since we're here in a border area. here in the great city of San Diego. Like he is talking to, who he's talking. It's a tear-jerking thing, and it's going to be very hard. And there's a long list to do it correctly. But you would never believe when you do it that way, and when you get your act together, that things that are going to happen to you, and it's going to be an incredible thing. And there's just no way to do it the right way. But you never believe how fast progress happens when you do it that way. And I gotta say, that's why it's so important to delatch. Actually delatch speed of movement from speed of speech and thought, because what that enables is for you to actually be able to move so quickly that suddenly you grab a woman, sweep her off her feet, slam her down like you would slam someone into a guillotine or an electric chair for an execution, put the rope around the neck, but you're going to slam her into a booth at a restaurant here in San Diego or something like that, and suddenly you're on a date with her. Because it doesn't matter. Then you have that, because of your speed and your agility, even if you're not the most muscular person, but because of the way that they wanted eugenics, and there's a really eugenic reason for why, as the general reality that we're under. So this should not have affected me the way that it did when these, CIA women were talking. Like, this was the example that I used, was, okay, they're screwing up my head because I'm trying to basically brainwash this low-level barista at the airport coffee shop, Pete's Coffee or whatever, into thinking the way I did. Well, I could just have the elites. There's nothing you can do. She's a barista, Why do I have to try to brainwash her with children's literature and the story of Lawrence Yep and how he manifested all this money to be able to get on these planes, even though he came from nothing, by telling a story about how the Wright brothers raised him? Why would I have to do that? Okay, I guess I should write a book and try to make a little extra money and be on New York Times, and get into Newberry myself, like Drew Wallow, instead of trying to brainwash this poor girl that wants nothing to do with it because greed isn't good. And these women that are screwing my head up, that's the one to grab. That took so much time to make sense of, because, okay, I'm a slower guy that couldn't keep up with disabling their heads with logic. But if you got the muscle, if you got the strength, and if you have the speed, you end up naturally doing that to them. So that's why you have to delatch. My term is delatch. Get rid of all assumptions. Delatch speed of movement from speed of speech and thought, and don't be afraid